If you're a kid, please make note of this. It's for your own good. The holidays. A wondrous time for everyone. Regardless of what holiday we do celebrate, let it be Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or whatever, we have a lot to go to and experience to get us in the holiday spirit. I'm sure we all have those specials, movies, and yes, even video games that we like to whip out around this time. Which brings me to a game that I personally like to play around the holidays, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games. A game released in October of 2009 as a follow-up to the well-sold Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. I do remember renting this one at least once or twice back when Blockbuster was still a thing, and it's okay. Probably wouldn't go back to it nowadays, but the motion control implementation is really hard to use without giving yourself a massive arm workout, but I don't think it's outright terrible. But that was 2007, when motion controls were still looking for their footing. This is 2009, where they found better ground to stand on. I remember my brother getting this game for both me and him a few months after it came out, and we had a blast playing it back then. We sunk so many hours into it that we pretty much got everything you could get in the game. As time went on, I played the game every Christmas, only skipping a few years because I wanted to play something else. My Wii U got bricked, and I had to get a new one, meaning I can't show you our completed save file. Blah blah blah, here we are now, reviewing the game after it recently turned 10 years old. Stop making me feel ancient! So let's just look and see what this game has to offer, shall we? Okay, to start things off, there really isn't a story in this game, nor is there any story mode. I mean, the festival mode kinda comes close, but even then it doesn't have a plot so to speak of. So let's jump right into the presentation. For a 2009 Wii title, the game overall looks pretty good. I wouldn't say that this game is pushing the system to its limits, as the character models, while still very good, are a tad rough around the edges. The characters in the crowd are just straight up flat GIFs, and some menus are clearly running at 60 FPS, but the main game and some menu transitions are running at 30, which is kind of odd. That being said, the models still look good and are incredibly expressive to boot. No environment is visually dull despite all the snow everywhere. The voice clips aren't too bad, even if they're clearly being recycled from other games, and if Bowser sounds like he has a nasal congestion. And the soundtrack is really good. The music for the Olympic events hits that sweet spot between relaxing when it needs to be and exciting when it needs to be. Having remixes and music clips of tracks from other Mario and Sonic games is great, and the boss themes are incredibly awesome too. Can't get enough of the Big Bullet Bills theme. It just rocks. Also, the FMVs look amazing. They didn't need to put these in a side game about the Olympics, but it's amazing that they did because they just felt like it. But overall, there's not a whole lot to say about the presentation. It's not a game that shows what the Wii is absolutely capable of, but that's okay. Just wanted to get that out there so I could go to the main portion of the video, the gameplay, because this game, for all intents and purposes, is a giant collection of mini-games. Every single minigame, while all having something to stand out from one another for the most part, all revolve around utilizing the Wii's motion controls, as did many other Wii minigame collections of its kind, even the previous game. However, in this case, the motion controls are used for something really cool aside from just waggling like a maniac, although those instances do pop up on a few occasions. They're primarily used to see how well you can balance the Wii remote, as well as use it in various positions for speeding up and slowing down, like in races utilizing the skis and snowboards. I'm personally really happy they took this approach because considering what the characters are doing in-game, like skiing, snowboarding, sledding, or what have you, it makes a lot of sense to use balancing as a means of controlling. They most likely did this to make it easy to fit in support for the Wii balance board, which I won't be talking about because I don't have one, but no matter the case, the controls really work and have immensely satisfying feedback. For the main game itself though, like with every other Wii minigame collection, it is built with multiplayer in mind. No matter the mode, up to 4 players can be brought into local co-op action. You have 4 different class types, with 5 characters each for a grand total of 20 playable characters at your disposal, me's not included. And you can play any event however you like, as a full-on team, as 2 separate teams, or just every man for himself. And if you can do this, I definitely recommend it as the game becomes more fun with more wheels in the mix. This is one aspect I remember the most about the game. My brother and I have loved playing this together, and when we teamed up, so few actually stood on our way. Unfortunately, I couldn't get him to record with me, so shoutouts to some members of the University of Memphis esports team for joining me in some multiplayer action. The modes themselves are pretty much what you'd expect for the most part. Single match is just you free playing any event you so desire, where you'll probably end up beating records and getting some hidden goodies that some modes won't let you get. Training is some sort of like mini mission mode that shows you the ins and outs of how each minigame controls. The party mode gets kind of boring after a while. In fact, I only bother with that for the footage. I can't show off the online system in the game because the Nintendo Wii's online was taken down all that time ago, though I hear you are not missing much. And Festival is just a great time that you might want to get into when the game begins. It's set up like an actual Olympic tournament where you select one character or a team of characters for the whole thing and go on a day-by-day basis completing challenges, beating other competitors in the events, and even facing off against some bosses. That last one especially caught me off guard back then because I think someone coming in to challenge you to an event and doing generally better than the normal CPUs, mostly, is a really cool idea, even if one of them is just a giant bullet bill. Guess they cheated out on the bonsai bill. It's also worth knowing that the Team Festival is probably best played first because A, even if the Olympic events are great, the Dream events are even better, and B, you only have 2 Dream events available when you start a new game. You have to unlock the rest, which I'm absolutely cool with. And for one more thing, the events as a whole have their own little set of challenges within them in the form of these emblems, which you get by fulfilling a specific quota for it, like meeting requirements for a perfect multiple times, performing special tricks up to a specific number of times, among many other things. I mean, with the Wi-Fi shut down, it's impossible to get all of them now, but trying to get them still feels really good, and the payouts the game gives you are great too. No matter what event you do, you will earn star points, which are this game's currency. And this is a great incentive to go out of your way to accomplish as much as you can, because with that money, you can buy cosmetics for your snowboard, skis, sled, and glider that you can customize in the same shop, clothes for your Mies to wear that do directly change their stats but never directly upgrade them, although you can have them imitate certain characters if you so desire, books about the Olympics, yeah, I didn't go for any of them, music from other Mario and Sonic games to play over certain events, which I find really cool, and after beating Festival, a secret shop can give you discounts, decorate the shopping town, or unlock some bonus things to do in the aftergame, like Master Ghost Racing, basically harder records, and blue coin hunts that can net you more star points, so there's plenty of reason to go back and play each event to see if you can get absolutely everything, which I immensely appreciate. Heck, if the mail tells you, you could find some VIP characters staying by just watching these events, including the big guy himself,
Santa Claus.
There we go, now it's a Christmas review. So now I've basically gone over all the modes and bonuses you can earn within them, because I wanted to reserve the rest of the video for going over what I think of each and every event, starting with the original Olympic version and then bringing up the Dream variation if it has one. Pretty sure this will take up most of the video because there's a lot to see here. Starting off with Alpine Skiing, I quite like it, and it's good to see the first selectable event on the menu makes a good first impression. The controls for the skis are very simple, and the downhill version of this event gives you a great idea as to how they work. And this event is the best place to try a mechanic with the skis that I find really cool. It's called the Gate Dash, where if you slightly hit the edge of a banner, instead of stumbling, you'll gain a boost of speed. Here, it takes a simple event and adds a layer of strategy into it. Performing a Gate Dash is satisfying because you will stumble if you hit a banner at the wrong place or angle. And even if you do it and move faster, controlling yourself is harder, so you have to think ahead and decide if you think it's worth it or if it'll screw you over somewhere later. These situations don't happen as much in the downhill event, but in the Giant Slalom version, you need to keep that in mind. Giant Slalom may be shorter than downhill, but there's a lot more turns, more elaborate gate positioning, and tons more things sneaking up on you. To me, downhill is great for a nice stroll that shows you the mechanics very well, while Giant Slalom tests you in a way that feels fair. And the Dream variation kinda makes itself into a ski cross race with the Alpine gates, but those gates can act as makeshift speed boosters, so there is incentive to crossing them. I also love how the course is designed technically and aesthetically, as this is an instance of Seaside Hill being brought back in a side game before Sonic Generations did that 2 years later. Really cool. Ski jumping is another fun event that utilizes the skis very differently. Unlike the Alpine skiing and freestyle skiing events, where tilting controls the character's sense of direction, here it controls the character's upward balance. You need to keep them straight up while going down a giant ramp, and when you take off into the air, you have to keep your arrow trajectory in check and go the farthest distance you can to earn points. The biggest challenge here is adjusting to whatever way the wind is blowing. The wind will be blowing in different directions and can change at any moment, so you need to keep an eye on the windometer and adjust to whatever way it's blowing. I like this as it adds a degree of unpredictability in a way that works. The biggest difference between the individual and team versions are that your individual character jumps twice, whereas all 4 members of your team get a jump. A simple but fun one. However, a lot of it gets overhauled in the Dream version, where the windows are replaced by full control of your character's placement in mid-air, and the goal is not to go the farthest, but to rack up as many points as possible. Not only do the controls feel slick, but there's tons of opportunities for points, and if you plan out your route, you can rack in so many points that the record to break becomes a total joke. And I love all the throwbacks to Mario Galaxy here. It really makes this event feel like a dream. Pun entirely intended. Now on to Moguls, and I mean, it functions and it's easy to understand what to do, but the controls here feel terribly imprecise. Unlike other events that let you go free on skis, which felt very natural, here it feels like you're locked with the skis that turn the Wii remote if it had the functionality of a D-pad. It's not ideal to go slow, but it's really easy to overshoot turn points, or even worse, stun yourself so you can't get any. Not much else to say, not bad, but not really my cup of tea. C-Cross is fun though. It's just a simple race on skis utilizing the same controls Alpine had, but there's really not as much opportunity to do gate dashes here, so this one feels plainer. It's still good, just not wonderful, but it has a great Dream counterpart. As someone who played a ton of Mario Kart way back then, it really makes me happy to see it represented here, even down to a remix of the same music track and the race start jingle from that game playing here. Come on, that is just adorable. The course itself was designed a lot like the original track too. Very simple, but there's plenty of chances to gain speed and jump off of ramps to perform tricks. There's even a cannon ripped straight from DK Mountain that each lap ends on, giving the event a more memorable set piece. So yeah, the Dream event does take steps in the right direction. Snowboard time, and half pipe is pretty good. I mean, there's not much to say here. You go down a tube, jump high, and perform stunts. It's fun, though I wish it lasted a little longer, especially with how demanding some of these scores get. Snowboard Cross takes place on the same track as Ski Cross, but I enjoy the snowboard controls a bit more as you can do more stunts with them, and it's easy to go faster with them, so I don't mind the track being used here. But oh man, Dream Snowboard Cross. This event is just utterly fantastic. I mean, it's another race in a fictional track, but when that track is Radical Highway from Sonic Adventure 2, and it is filled with so many good places to jump and get some tricks off, and memorable set pieces like that bridge you see Shadow grind on all the time, you have an event that never slows down and is a pure thrill ride. This was my favorite event of the game back when I was younger, and while that may not be the case now, I still love this event and I always look forward to playing it, and beating it as fast as I can. Next event is Racing with Skates, and ironically, the first one I'm talking about is my personal favorite of the bunch. Speed skating 500 meters is one of the shorter events, but I really think it shines in the skill department. Nearly every single stroke of skating requires timing from you. You cannot just waggle away at this one. Your character always has a specific pattern for how you should be skating, and getting in sync with them requires a lot of coordination. But I find getting the pattern down to be really satisfying, because it feels like I'm working hard for a good reward. I didn't like this event as a kid, but it's really grown on me. Unfortunately, Short Track 1000 meters, Short Track Relay, and Dream Short Track do not follow this. They require you to just waggle away and pick up speed and turn when it's required. These three are still fun regardless. I especially like the callback to Sonic Riders in the Dream variation, but I do prefer the first event. That and the last three have a laughable case of rubber band AI. I mean, look at that. Figure skating! This is pretty much a series of quick time events where you can perform certain motions with the Wii Remote in time with the music. It's nice to hear some commonly used figure skating music to these, though the game makes you do Swan Lake a lot in Festival, but I'm just really happy that these actually work. It's easy to get an idea for when you should perform the prompts it wants you to, and it will spice things up with those drawing chains and give you more chances to gain points, and holding the Wii Remote still to keep your balance. So I do like it, but Dream Figure Skating takes the potential for fan service and cranks it up to 15. The Mario version of this event is fairly standard, kinda wish that there were more references to the newer 3D Mario games at the time, but the Sonic one? Woo! I love this one! The music in all the segments is absolutely fantastic, I like all the callbacks to various 2D and 3D Sonic games, and the final part is a fight with an icy automaton of perfect chaos. Even if I never played Sonic Adventure 1 as a kid, I got really giddy when I saw that. And because I don't know how to transition, here's a fabulous man skating. He will go on to inspire many. Next up is Bobsleigh, and this one I found to be fun. Even though there are a few differences between Skeleton and Bobsleigh, with the former being on your own with a smaller hitbox, and the latter being with a team and a larger hitbox, the goal is pretty much the same. You have to balance the sleigh as much as you can while racing along the track, so that you can stay within the highlighted path and gain more speed. The challenge here comes from finding the best position to keep the speed going, which I think is really welcome. And it is satisfying to get the best times here. The Dream counterpart does away with a lot of that in favor of letting you slay through the special stages from Sonic Heroes, and I do like this. It's fun to gain orbs to pick up speed, but there's also some strategy involved thanks to items, obstacles, and boost pads, so this event doesn't get boring. Though I must ask why the CPUs don't get teams what the players do. Come on game, that's insulting to them. It's time for ice hockey. I'm just gonna put this out there, if there's any event I think anyone can visit this game, just pick up and play and have a blast with, or be similar to what Wii Bowling was to Wii Sports in other words, it's this one. The motion controls are only reserved for shooting and charging at other players depending on if you have the puck or not. Everything else such as passing, stealing, and just moving around is reserved to just traditional button controls, leading to a compromise that feels good. There's plenty you have to consider in this sport, and it's designed in a way where it rewards you for thinking ahead and saying you back if you get too reckless. I can see people loving this event for how simple yet chaotic it can get, especially in multiplayer. And the Dream event decides to take that and add in power-ups, hazards, and stronger special shots into the mix. Perfect for taking an already great event and adding another layer on top of that. Truth be told, both are so good that I can honestly see people preferring one over the other or liking them equally. Me personally, they both have their merits, so I like them equally, and they're personally my favorite mode in the game. Curling is an interesting one to talk about. This one is a lot slower than the other events, but I think it's in a way that works. I mean, I know squat about with the real Olympic curling, so I just stuck with the most basic of tactics, but it was still pretty fun, especially taking what each character specializes in into consideration. But if you know a lot about curling, you'll probably get more mileage out of it. I think it's fine, but I love the Dream version. This one massively overhauls the core design of the event and turns it into bowling. I think that is really creative, and the idea is done so well that it feels satisfying to pull off some weird trick shots and be rewarded for it. So this one gets a thumbs up from me. That may be all the Olympic events with their Dream counterparts, but the Dream event roster has 2 surprises of its own. First of which is Dream Snowball Fight, another great minigame. It's a snowball fight in its simplest terms, but the presence of cover, a snowball limit, and power-ups really gives it a good spin, and gives you good things to do to your opponent and to watch out for. And with how many characters are on the field and the occasional bullet bill, things can get crazy really fast. But no matter what, I find it fun to best other teams in this sport, especially when I do something big to turn the tables in my favor. And the final event, Dream Gliding. Even if this has very little to do with winter, this one is a blast. The glider controls are simple and easy to get used to, and there's plenty of opportunities to rack up points fast. But you have to think ahead of time as to what you want to shoot, because if you go after another player on the field to get the maximum amount of points possible, that being 10, they can slip away from you and time will be wasted on an opportunity with no payoff. But if you and or your team get things just right, that point count will go up fast. So overall, I really like this one, and it's also where I found Jolly Old St. Nick on this save file. So yeah, that's all the events this game has to offer. Call me impressed! I will admit, part of the reason as to why I love this game is some of the memories I had with it when I was younger. Even so, taking a step back and looking at some other minigame collections for the Wii, even this game's predecessor, it is clear that Nintendo and Sega really put an effort to make this a great game to play, even if it was just intended to be another minigame collection. Pretty much every event is fun, and I love how well the game gives you incentive to play each and every one of them, even up to multiple times. It's just good! It's a really good party game for the Wii. I mean, it'd be a stretch to call it one of the best games on the system, but I don't think it's trying to be. But even by those standards, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games were that extra mile to stand out among its brethren. So if you have a Wii or a Wii U, I'm actually recommending it, especially if you have buddies who like playing Wii games with you. What about you, Bowser? You think so? Excellent. I am the Lightning Ripper, and I'd like to take this time to say that no matter what holiday you celebrate, I hope it's a good one. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and here's hoping for a bright new year.